Oh, bear with me, I've got the sneezes. Oh, this cold thing. Oh, someone putting a whammy on me. Yeah. The myth of Albert Pike. Did a 19th century Freemason really predict World War III between Islam and Zionism? Yeah, it's ordained. Come on, in there. In August 1871, according to a story that refuses to fade, a senior American Freemason sat down and mapped out the next century of human conflict. Albert Pike, a Confederate general turned Masonic philosopher, is said to have written to the Italian revolutionary Giuseppe Mazzini, predicting 3 world wars, the first culminating in what we now know as World War I, the second unfolding as World War II. Oh, it's nose. Both dismantling empires and reshaping global political ideologies. And a third still yet to come, a final global conflict that will transform religion and reorder the world as we know it. The letter, believers say, was once displayed in the British Museum, then it vanished. It looks like that. Oh, crikey. No manuscript has ever been produced. No catalogue entry confirms it. The British Museum and the British Library have both stated that they have no record of the document, yet the text, or rather versions of it, continues to circulate, cited in books, sermons and online forums as proof that the catastrophes of the 20th century were not accidents of history but steps in a longer, deliberate design. Duh. Oh, this nose. Revolutionaries, Freemasons and the 19th century world. Giuseppe Mazzini, 1805 to 1872, was not a fringe figure. He was one of the intellectual architects of Italian unification. The Risorgimento, a journalist, exile and conspirator in the political sense of the word. He founded Young Italy, Giovanni Italia, a secret society dedicated to creating a unified republican Italy. He believed in popular sovereignty, nationalism and democratic revolution at a time when much of Europe remained under monarchic rule. He sounds a lot like Ricardo Bosi, doesn't he? He moved through networks of activists and clandestine groups, including the Carbonari. And like many 19th century political reformers, he was associated with Freemasonry. Albert Pike, 1809 to 1891, meanwhile, built his reputation in a very different theatre. Born in Massachusetts, he travelled west, became a newspaper editor and lawyer in Arkansas, fought in the Mexican-American War, and later served as a brigadier general for the Confederacy during the American Civil War. What's Communist John Wilson, what's his infatuation with brigadier generals? I only talk to brigadier generals as a rule, but I'll make allowances for a retired lieutenant colonel in a 3-piece suit. His words, not mine. I remember him saying that many times. After the war, he devoted himself to Freemasonry, rising to become Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite, the two-headed eagle, Southern jurisdiction in 1871. The same year as the alleged letter, he published Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, a dense work of comparative religion and Masonic philosophy. That's Albert Pike there. Both men were products of a century in which secret societies, fraternal orders and revolutionary cells were common tools of political organisations. That shattered milieu, rather than documented collaboration, is the slender thread on which the latter conspiracy rests. Some fringe accounts go further, alleging that Mazzini led the Illuminati's global revolutionary program and worked alongside Pike to advance a Luciferian agenda. The Mormons. Historians, however, note that the Bavarian Illuminati, founded in 1776, the American Revolution, MAGA much? What is MAGA really? Think about that. Founded in... I'm going to read that again. Some fringe accounts go further, alleging that Mazzini led the Illuminati's global revolutionary program and worked alongside Pike to advance a Luciferian agenda. Historians, however, note that the Bavarian Illuminati, founded in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt, God, I've heard that name, had effectively ceased to operate by the late 18th century. There is no credible archival evidence placing Mazzini at its helm in the 1830s, nor demonstrating organisational continuity into Pike's era. The Bavarian Illuminati, founded in 1776, was a Luciferian church, who are the Mormons, which is Freemasonry. Hello. Noahide, the fake rainbow. The version of the letter that circulates today presents an audacious thesis. It claims Pike outlined 3 global wars, each serving a calculated purpose. The First World War, the text says, must be brought about to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia. The Romanovs. The assassination of the Romanovs, and established atheistic communism as a fortress state. Tensions between the British and Germanic empires would be manipulated to ignite the conflict. Afterwards, communism would be used to weaken governments and religion alike. Starting to see how World War II really happened, aren't we? The Second World War, according to the same text, must be fomented by exploiting differences between fascist and political Zionists. The destruction of Nazism would strengthen Zionism sufficiently to establish a sovereign state of Israel and Palestine. International communism, it adds, would rise in parallel to balance Christendom until the time came for a final upheaval. The Third World War, still in the future within the logic of the prophecy, is described as emerging from escalating tensions between Western powers aligned with political Zionism and leaders across the Islamic world. I'm going to pause here for a sec. I have no malice towards any of my Islamic brothers and sisters, Catholic, Christian, whatever denomination. I think you've been led astray. Well, I know you've been led astray. You're following religion instead of Christ. Okay? You're following religion instead of Christ. And these religious dogmas have been manipulated for you to do so, to separate us. We cannot combine the religions. that we can live together in peace. Okay? I hate to rock everyone's boat. Islam was created, yes, the way Shahid Balsan says it was. However, it was done at the will of the Catholic Church. I hate to rock your boat on that, but hello. I went to a Catholic school. A very old one. I'll read that paragraph again. The Second World War, according to the same text, must be fomented by exploiting differences between fascists and political Zionists. The destruction of Nazism would strengthen Zionism sufficiently to establish a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. International communism, it adds, would rise in parallel to balance Christendom until the time came for a final upheaval. The Third World War, still in the future within the logic of the prophecy, is described as emerging from escalating tensions between Western powers aligned with political Zionism and leaders across the Islamic world. Hello? The conflict, the text claims, would draw in major nations and leave them exhausted, physically, morally and spiritually. Out of that chaos, it says, would come a sweeping upheaval, the collapse of both Christianity and atheism, followed by what it calls a universal revelation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. Pauline Hanson's a Luciferian, and I don't even know if she knows it because she's pretty ditzy. I don't know, at this point, you can't be that dumb, can you? Surely. It's a perfect picture to describe it. Look at that. Some see echoes of Pike's prophecy in rising tensions between Western-backed Israel and Iran-led regional forces. Now, we all know Donald Trump's a 33rd degree Mason, and he's also bankrupt up to the ball bag. He owes big time. He owes what you would call life debts, multiple. It is a dramatic script. It appears to align, at least superficially, with the fall of European monarchy. I'm going to pause again. Get away from that Ricardo Bosi. He's filthy. He's leading us all astray into this. Get away from him. He ought to be locked up. He talks about hanging people. The Democrats might have been cuckoo, they might have been corrupt, but you think maybe they were standing in the way of this over in America? Do you think maybe? I'm not saying they were any good. I think you find that the real swamp donkey's in charge of the swamp now. It is a dramatic script. It appears to align, at least superficially, with the fall of European monarchies after 1918, the rise and defeat of fascist regimes, and the establishment of Israel in 1948. I thought it was 1946. Nah. Split hairs. That symmetry is what gives the claim its saying power. In contemporary terms, believers often point to ongoing tensions between Israel and Iran, the broader Israel-Palestine conflict, Western military alliances in the Middle East and periodic flare-ups involving armed groups across the region as early signs of the kind of confrontation and prophecy describes a widening struggle between Western-backed Israeli interests and parts of the Islamic world. Yeah, I'm going to read it all. I think it's so important. Well, it is. This is super important. where the story came from. The letter did not surface in 1871, nor in Pike's lifetime, nor even during the First World War. It entered public disclosures decades later. Public discourse decades later. The Canadian naval officer William Guy Carr popularised the Three World Wars version in his 1958 book Pawns in the Game, first published in 1955, with the 1958 edition widely circulated in the preface. PP 15 PP. I'm guessing that's going to be Pope Pius. 15 to 16. Okay. I'm going to look up what that means. I'm not sure. Carr wrote that the letter had once been catalogued and displayed in the British Museum Library, where he claimed it remained until 1977, 4 years after I was born. He provided no archival reference, photograph or direct quotation from an original document. Pawns in the game. Oh my God. Sorry guys. I've seen that before. Granddad, what have you put in my head? I think we're having an unlock moment here. This has been happening heaps lately. I'm seeing things that I already know about, and I'm thinking, how do I know this? Earlier strands of the myth trace back to anti-Masonic literature in the late 19th century, particularly to Leo Taxil, real name Gabriel Jogand Pages, writing under the pseudonym Dr. Bataille. Taxil published sensational works in the 1890s. I can't get a picture out of my head. I've seen that before. My grandfather had that book. God, I want his books. I wonder what Mum did with them. They're gone. Somewhere. Taxil published sensational works in the 1890s, alleged that Freemasonry concealed Luciferian rituals and global conspiracies. In 1897, he publicly confessed that his revelations were fabrications intended to ridicule both Freemasons and credulous clerics. No, he was visited and told to shut up. Le Diable. Here you go, visit. The only way to discredit those books is to get the author to discredit them. William Guy Carr's later account drew heavily on this material, paraphrasing elements of the hoax narrative found in Taxil's Le Diable that thing. Les Mysteries de Spiritisme. Historians also point to anachronisms in the circulating text. Terms such as fascism and Zionism appear in forms that post-date 1871. The word Zionism was coined in 1890 by Nathan Bernheim and gained prominence after Theodore Herzl convened the first Zionist Congress in 1897. The word fascism was coined by Benito Mussolini in 1919, derived from the Italian fascio, bundle or group, referencing the ancient Roman fasces, and later adopted as the name of his political movement, the Fasci di Combattimento. Nazism, as a defined ideology, emerged in the 20th century. Such vocabulary makes it difficult to sustain the claim that the document was composed in the early 1870s. Look into the history of Benito Mussolini and how he was captured, rescued, and then murdered, and him and his mistress hung upside down from a service station. I believe it was a service station. For days, if not weeks, where they threw rocks and rotten food at their dead corpses and even cut off his penis. That didn't happen for nothing, guys. The British Museum and the British Library have both stated that they have no record of ever holding the alleged letter. Now we all know, museums, the Smithsonian, for example, has got a shocking reputation for hiding all the world's secrets. They are the only historians and museums that have diplomatic immunity, in the sense that there is no warrant that can go into their storage warehouses. They're hiding a lot of secrets. You want to know how big are the Smithsonians? They even done a show based on the Smithsonians called Bones. For believers, the fact that no copy of the letter exists is part of the story. If it can't be found, they argue, that only proves it was suppressed. Historians don't see it that way. There's no manuscript, no archival trace, no mention of it in 19th century records, nothing contemporaneous at all. Go to the Smithsonian. It'll be there. It's too much of an elaborate story that's not big enough for it to be a hoax. Who would just make up a letter as a hoax? Like 1 page. Someone will write a book on it for notoriety and fame and to make money, but who would make that up for nothing and it's only 1 page? It's there, guys. Instead of just discarding it as, it's a hoax, okay, what, just like all this conspiracy theories that turned out to be true? Try and think of a good reason to write it. If it's not true, when no one had anything to gain out of it. A letter. And then a book based on that letter, written by somebody else. Now, why would they go to such extreme lengths to disprove its legitimacy? You see, things that are true and real are true and real, and they stand up on their own. You don't have to whitewash it so hard. What does exist is the text as it began circulating decades later. It shows up in the mid-20th century, long after the events it supposedly predicted, and some of the language it uses, political terms that only entered common use years after 1871, sits awkwardly with the idea that it was written in that period. Pike was a was a former Confederate general who became a leading voice in Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Mazzini was a revolutionary nationalist operating largely from exile. Both were political operators in turbulent times, but there is no verified correspondence between them outlining a three-war plan for reshaping the world. I beg to differ. You take that as you will. As thou wilt, as Aleister Crowley would say. That good old Albert Pike here. He coined the term, "When the people need a hero, we shall provide them with one." It's a Freemasonry term that he coined. When the people need a hero, we shall provide them with one. You are being provided with Pauline Hanson, just as England is being provided with Nigel Farage, just as America has been provided with Donald Trump. No one's winning shit. Everyone else is losing. Second place is first loser. Remember that? Not all is as it seems, people.